Hi folks, today I'm in front of the Ark Encounter in Williamstown, Kentucky, and in front of the camel pen to answer a common question that I think a lot of people had. How did Noah get all the animals on the ark? Now, I actually recently heard this while I was planning this trip, while talking to a Christian brother about the fact that I was coming to see the ark. Someone who was overhearing the conversation said, Noah had to get all the animals on the ark. And he emphasized all, as if, well, that seems impossible, right? Well, it's true. We estimate today, according to our classification system, that there are around 1.8 million species of animals. If Noah had to get 2 of each of those on the ark, that would have been millions of creatures. Surely they wouldn't fit. But in fact, this is a misunderstanding. Noah didn't have to bring 2 of every species. First of all, God told him what to bring. In Genesis chapter 6 through 9, where we have the flood narrative, you can read about it. God says, beginning in verse 19 of chapter 6, that he only needed to bring the land animals, the birds and beasts, and the creeping things. That would be reptiles, creatures that are of flesh. In Genesis chapter 7, verse 15, he mentions that it's only those things that have the breath of life in them. In other words, breathing animals that have lungs. So when we put all these criteria together, we see that God didn't have to bring Noah didn't have to bring the marine animals, even the ones with lungs. That lets out quite a number of animals. And he also didn't have to bring the arthropods, which includes insects, spiders, and other things. So this, again, greatly reduces the number of animals that had to be brought on. The arthropods, insects, arachnids, and so forth, can survive the flood. Their eggs will survive. They can live on floating log mats that we know are created when lots of trees are crushed and swept away by floods and by volcanoes. And the arthropods do metabolize oxygen, but this is not the criteria. Even plants metabolize oxygen as well as carbon dioxide. So this, first of all, greatly reduces the number of animals that have to go on the ark. The second thing is, these specific groups that God points out are to be according to their kinds, or as some translations say, reproducing after their kinds. In other words, only groups that can all reproduce. Now, we still have many of these reproducing kinds in our world. For example, the dogs. All the dogs, the various wolves and jackals, hyenas, they're all of one reproducing kind. They can all interbreed, or if they can't interbreed, they can hybridize. So we know that the dogs are all one kind, reproducing kind. Also, the cats are all one reproducing kind. From your little house cat to the lions, the tigers, we have hybrids of ligers and tigons and all these things that you can see in zoos. So we know they can either interbreed or hybridize. So all those are one kind. Here at the Creation Museum, they have a zorse and a zonkey, a hybrid between a zebra and a horse, a hybrid between a zebra and a donkey. So under our modern classification system, these would be typically at the family level, just as Canidae for the dogs is a family, Felidae for the cats is a family. Now, that system wasn't available at the time the Bible is written, at the time Noah is giving the instructions. So it was the reproducing kinds, the same ones that God created in Genesis chapter 1. That's right. So all these restrictions greatly limit the number of animals that need to be brought onto the ark, even though it was 2 of some and 7 of others. But another thing that we'll understand is Noah had more animals or more reproducing kinds than we do, because some of them have gone extinct, such as the dinosaurs. The dinosaurs represent only about 50 reproducing kinds, but Noah would have had to bring them, because those are all land-breathing vertebrates that are of the flesh, and they breathe air through lungs. Now, the researchers here at the Ark Encounter have calculated that the number of kinds, reproducing kinds, is around 1,400. So when you add up all the number of animals that he would have needed to bring on the ark, it comes to about 6,700 individual animals, most of them very small. But of course, there are some large animals. What about elephants? What about brontosaurs? How do you get those on the Ark? Well, the first thing is, you don't need to bring the largest member of any reproducing kind. What we're actually looking for is the most genetically diverse of the reproducing kind, because they have to become all the, after they come off the boat, they have to diversify into all the various kinds of animals that are present with us today. So even with the most genetically diverse member, you don't want to bring adults. They're bigger, they eat more, and they produce more waste. You want to bring infants or juveniles. But here's another important consideration. When these animals come off the Ark, they have to repopulate the entire planet. So you want to have them be young, to be healthy, and have the maximum number of reproductive years ahead of them so they can start breeding immediately and produce as many offspring as possible. Now, some of these animals reach sexual maturity in a year, which is how long they were on the Ark. So you want to get them as young as possible. All right, so when you put it all together, there's no problem getting all these animals on the Ark, just the ones that God commanded. Plus, the boat is huge. I mean, you really have to see this replica, and then you'll understand it. The only thing that I've seen that even comes close is an aircraft carrier. We went on a discontinued aircraft carrier from World War II, and it's like a floating city, as you've probably heard. And if you've ever seen one, imagine a triple-decker aircraft carrier and get some idea how big it is inside there. In addition, God told Noah the dimensions that he would need to create. Now, an all-knowing God knows how many animals they are, how big they are, and how much space Noah's going to need. So if he needed a smaller boat, he could have told him that. And of course, even if Noah can't do all these calculations, God can. You know, at this time, God is performing miracles. The world doesn't normally flood itself. God did that. All right, so after all this, all these considerations, we've answered the question, how did Noah get all those animals on to the Ark? And I would recommend, if you get a chance to come out and see the Ark Encounter, it's a great, it really brings this historic event alive to see it. It acts as a feasibility study to show that there really is plenty of space. If you walk around in there, you'll see it too. Another good thing about this Ark Encounter is that it's a reminder that there's another flood coming. Not a flood of water, but a flood of God's wrath is coming on all mankind at the end of history. Jesus talked about this when he said in Matthew 24:37, "As it was in the days of Noah, so will it be at the coming of the Son of Man." So the only way now to avoid this flood is to get on board the new Ark. Jesus is that Ark who saves us from the flood of God's wrath. You're free to climb aboard or to remain on land. That's your choice. God didn't force anyone to get on the Ark, and he won't force you. Also, there was only the one Ark, and there's still only one Ark now. Well, that's our video for today. Thanks for watching. God bless you all.